The death toll from the massive explosion in Beirut has jumped to 135, with nearly 5,000 wounded and dozens still missing as of Wednesday local time. That's according to Lebanon's health minister, but officials say they expect the number to climb even further as emergency workers dig through the rubble to search for survivors. The country's cabinet declared a 2-week state of emergency in Beirut, with its president calling for unity. Ammonium nitrate stored at a warehouse in the Beirut port has emerged as a possible spark that caused the catastrophic blast. It's still not clear what exactly led to the ignition, but many point to the 2,700 metric tons of the unsecured and volatile chemical compound. The Lebanese government has launched an investigation into the blast, saying it will not rest until it finds those responsible.
Just a few hours after 2 deadly explosions rocked the Lebanese capital, former colonial power France offered aid. Overnight, President Emmanuel Macron announced that he's sending several tons of hospital equipment and a team of health workers to Beirut. In a similar vein, Prime Minister Boris Johnson tweeted that the UK is ready to provide support in any way it can. Regional ally Iran, too, says it's ready to be of assistance, with Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif signing off with the words, "Stay strong, Lebanon." US President Donald Trump, meanwhile, offered both aid and a theory on what was behind the explosions.
Kashmiris on the Pakistani side of the disputed region are protesting. Many say the Indian government's communications blockade has separated them from family in Indian-administered Kashmir. New Delhi revoked its autonomy last year, effectively annexing parts of the territory. On the other side of the line of control, some in the Hindu minority in Jammu and Kashmir have been celebrating the anniversary.
August the 5th is the day when the wall of hatred, namely Article 370, that divided Kashmir from India, was brought down. Now, residents of Jammu and Kashmir are proudly calling themselves Indian citizens. Earlier, also, they were Indian citizens, but somewhere the sentiment of separatism was being fanned with slogans of self-rule, autonomy and freedom. That's over now.
In the year since India made that decision, it has imposed a lockdown, cut off all modes of communication, and its forces have arrested several political leaders and young men.
Three women have spearheaded the Belarus opposition campaign. Their triptych of icons, the peace sign, a heart shape and a clenched fist. They formed their surprise alliance after the male leaders they'd been championing were barred from standing. Two of the three can be seen as coming from inside the country's establishment. Maria Kolesnikova was running the presidential campaign for leading banker Viktor Babariko until he was jailed. Veronika Tsepkalo is the wife of a pro-Russian would-be candidate who fled to Moscow after allegedly being threatened with prosecution. But it's an outsider who's on the ballot paper. Svetlana Tikhonovskaya took over the reins of a popular protest movement after her blogging husband was jailed for taking part in an illegal demonstration.
Polls opened early on Wednesday to choose Sri Lanka's members of parliament. But the coronavirus pandemic made the National Election Commission's job extremely difficult. The election was postponed twice because of health concerns. Observers say Wednesday's vote was one of the most peaceful in recent years, and that's an achievement. The preference voting system usually causes much rivalry between candidates from the same party. But new restrictions on campaigning minimize confrontation. A number of complaints were made about biased media coverage during the election.
Well, 3 bodies have been found buried inside the yard of a house in Levenhout-Bosch in Centurion, south of Pretoria. Community members believe those people were buried alive. Well, details are sketchy.
What we know here, we arrived here and community members are telling us that this was a plot to try and get the owner of this house killed. They've also told us and rather confirmed that 4 suspects have been apprehended and brought in connection to this and will be questioned at the Oliven police station.
In the very city where the landmark treaty was signed, thousands of women turn out to defend it. Ruling party officials in Turkey have said they'll decide next week whether to withdraw from the Istanbul Convention on Violence Against Women. For these activists, not only must it be kept, but also properly implemented. Established by the Council of Europe 9 years ago, the convention was the world's first binding instrument to prevent and prosecute violence against women. Turkey ratified it in 2012, but rights groups say authorities have failed to enforce it. One NGO records twice as many femicides in the country last year as in 2011. Conservative groups, however, think getting rid of the convention would actually reduce this violence because they believe it undermines the strength of the traditional family unit.
As the state just crossed the 500,000 case threshold with 7,600 deaths now, about 80% of those or so are people that are 65 or older. So disturbing trends that continue at the same time that we're seeing a decrease in the number of cases and the positivity rate. The question is, how long is that going to last? For today, the positivity rate was about 11% when you exclude the people who have already tested positive. Far lower than it was even the last week or two ago. And then the numbers themselves have come down to about 5,000 a day. But Florida has temporarily shuttered some of its testing sites during Hurricane Isaias. Now that's coming back online, kicking into high gear now. Today was actually the first day they've offered antigen testing at Marlins Park and also at Hard Rock Stadium. And it comes to, as there's promising signs right now for people who have been dealing with COVID-19 symptoms for not days or weeks, but in some cases months.
30 Kiwi criminals are tonight back in New Zealand, deported after their visas were cancelled by Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton. Among them, a known bikie associate who choked a Brisbane police officer.
Booted by Border Force, marched to a plane. 30 New Zealanders guilty of crimes like kidnapping and child exploitation sent back across the ditch.
We just don't want people of that very poor character in our countries.
Among them, Hilton King, known associate of the mongrel mob outlaw motorcycle gang. After being kicked out of the Brook Hotel at Mitchelton in May last year, he choked a policewoman until she was almost unconscious.
Do you regret what happened that night?
In handcuffs, flanked by guards, the man who sent him packing, making no apologies.
I think it's good riddance to him. I'm glad that he's gone because it was a very, very cowardly attack.
Officials in Washington state say they have captured the first Asian giant hornet since reports of their presence in the state came out last year. The terrifying insect, nicknamed the murder hornet, is known to be particularly vicious in how it kills its prey. They're also known to be able to kill off entire colonies of bees and small animals with their powerful stingers. The hornets have also been able to kill humans with multiple stings in other parts of the world. Environmental officials have set hundreds of traps, desperate to eradicate the hornets before they can populate any more. And they say the public is eager to help.
One thing that I find absolutely amazing is that the public has also come forward and on their own dime has set over 1,000 traps, 1,080. And so we have a network of 1,844 traps